This video is restoration of a 3-speed engine for an NSU Quickly S2. Now I'm taking this engine apart. I'm restoring the bike, but I'm also restoring an NSU Quickly TT at the moment, and I've taken that engine apart, but I'm not a mechanic. So as I have this other 3-speed engine, I want to take that apart as well and compare with what I found in the NSU Quickly TT engine. So this is an NSU Quickly S2. This is the 25-inch wheel model for which it's very difficult to get tires for. Anyway, the first procedure is to take off this flywheel. So to do that, you have to, because there's a woodruff key down inside there through that slot, it's hard to see it, but when I take that off it become evident. You have to use this pullers to get it off. You have to screw it in, and I just unscrew that part of it there a second now. So you have to install it like so, and then you have to turn this section here with a screwdriver, a spanner, like so. And it can be difficult, but I've loosened it so it's coming off pretty easy. So you just wind this off and you can then take it off. Now the reason it's difficult to take off is because of all those magnets there. So that's that. That's the electrical unit of the machine for the starter and for the lighting coils. And these are the points, and that's the condenser there. So I'm going to take this section off next, and this in here, and I'm going to take off the plug lead, and then I'm going to start taking off the rear brake lever here, which is a bit stuck at the moment. There is compression in the engine, so I'll take this off and we'll come back to it then. So to take the electrical unit off, there are 2 screws holding it in position. This one and this one. So we undo those, and if you notice up here, there's a mark on it here and a mark there on the engine casing. These are supposed to line up when you put it back on. Right, the 2 screws are off there now and the unit is loose, but before you can take it off you have to undo this section here. There's a blue wire going on there, and this other wire goes out through the engine there for connecting onto the lights. Okay, so that's the next section. I'll come back to it. Okay, now I'm taking off that whole unit. Pull the wire through there, and all those things need to be stored away together. Right, as we can see now, the lead for the plug wasn't attached. It should be attached to that, so that will have to be rectified at a later stage. The next section now is to take off this rear brake lever here. So we take off this nut washer, we have to take off this circlip here, take this off, the brake lever, and there's another circlip behind it which must be taken off as well. Okay, that's the outer circlip taken off, and then we take off the brake lever itself, and here we have the second circlip, so we must take that circlip off now as well. Now that's the second circlip off. Right, what's next? As we're at this side of the engine, we'll undo the gear changing lever here, because we'll have to do it at some stage later. So you need to take off the 2 small little circlips, press out the pin and detach this from this here. Okay, I actually only took off one of the circlips and pulled the pin out, and then the gear change mechanism comes out. There's a spring here at the back. Take this off, and there's a little pin on a spring there. That's it. I take them out completely out of it altogether. That's what they're like. Okay, so that's free now. I can turn the engine over now and start at the other side. Now, normally when you're taking an engine apart, the head of it here would be the next section to take off. But in this case, when I got this Quickly S2, this was all missing, so I will have to replace all that. So the next thing to do is to take off the chain sprocket at that side, and then the clutch assembly there, the lever arm for the clutch. Now to take off the gear item here, you need to take off this nut, and it has spring washers underneath it, and then you need a pullers to get in under this, which is this item here, to get that come off, because there's a little key inside there which stops it from coming off, so you need the pullers to do that. Now I'm taking off the nut, and there's the spring washer underneath it. So I must now attach the pullers to this to get it off. Right, that's the pullers set up on it there now, and you turn it with it's a 12mm spanner in this case. You keep turning it, and as you can see, up it comes. So that's it. And there's the little woodruff key there. That's what stops it from coming up. So now I'll take off this mechanism here. Right, that's the little woodruff key. You have to take that woodruff key out. You have to get it out, because it'll damage the seal when you drive the conrod out from the other side. So the little woodruff key has to be taken out. Now I've taken off the two little circlips off of the pin. We now need to get the pin to come out, and it normally comes out this way. But this one is proving a bit difficult, but I'll have to tap it out. Okay, I had to tap out the pin there because there was a lot of grease and everything on it, but it came out pretty easily. So we take those off, and with all parts, for when you're taking things apart, what I do is I put them into jars so that I can actually see the parts inside it, and I know what I'm going for when I go to get them out of it. Right, that's the little woodruff key out of there now. That's where it sits. So now we can take the engine apart. Right, what I do when I'm taking engines apart is I number all the bolts, number 1 to 8, like so. I work from start at number 1 and I go right 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8, like so. Right, so number 1 is always this one. Now I can see by some of these bolts that there may be a little bit of difficulty with them, because this engine certainly is pretty grotty. Anyway, we'll have a cut off it and see how we get on. Sometimes you think that things aren't going to come off easy, but in this case every one of them came off very easy, even though they look rusty on top. Now there is one other thing, I don't know what they were doing with this here, but I'm going to have to take that off to be able to get the casings off. Normally what happens there is the springing mechanism for holding the stand is attached there. I don't know what they were doing putting two of these through here, I just don't know. No, they do look pretty rusty, so I'm going to have some fun with them, I'd say. Right, I got a bit of a block of wood in the shed, and I've drilled holes for the 8 bolts and then for the casing bolt as well, which holds that casing to that casing. So we'll take off these 8 now and just store them handily there so that we know exactly where they go afterwards. Actually, this is where bolt number 8 should be. I've only got 7 bolts, so that's where bolt number 8 should be going through. Okay, in actual fact, for the underneath stand goes in there. Now at the moment it's threading out, but that nut or bolt could have snapped off, and it still could. So I'll keep working on it with the vice grips and try and get it out. I'm pouring penetrating oil in as well after every couple of turns. Right, I got lucky and I've managed to unscrew it, and it was actually a bolt that was going all the way down through the whole thing. So obviously what happened was somebody lost one of the original bolts off of it. I have some spare ones anyway, so that's fine. This thing is shot anyway. Right, now I can take off this cover. Right, as you can see, the casing is starting to come apart, but it's quite difficult, and then all the oil started to spill out of it now. That's way too much oil for being inside in a Quickly engine. It may have been put in to keep the engine from rusting inside it or something, I don't know, but there's one issue here now, and this is the stud that's here. That stud there is not inclined to come out, so the casing is opening, but it's not inclined to separate at that point there. So I have to get the rubber mallet and give it a couple of more bits of persuasion to see if I can get it to come off. Right, with gentle persuasion, it's finally after coming apart, and it looks pretty okay inside it, better than it does outside anyway. Okay, that was the interesting thing there now that I was wanting to see, because in the Quickly TT engine, the 3-speed, there was a circlip like that in it, and there was nothing else there, and I was wondering if there was something missing out of the TT engine, but there isn't. Okay, so the next thing to do now is to take off that clutch cup there, and to do that you have to prise that down and out with a screwdriver. I normally work at the other side and press that piece out, which is that side of it there. There's a big circlip there holding the cup in place, so you must push down and out. Now I can't do it with just one hand, so I'll have to do it and then. Okay, I've put the camera up there so that I can show how that is taken out. So you must press down on it, tighten up the engine, stop it from rolling around, and press it out. There it goes. Okay, that's the circlip off of the bottom of the clutch cup. The next thing to do now is to take off this. Now, sometimes it comes off easy like it just did, and you can probably hear me laughing because it doesn't always happen, and it can be very temperamental. So the next thing to do now is to compress the spring, the clutch spring here, and this is the tool that you can buy from NSU in Great Britain, in Holland or in Germany, from the NSU suppliers, and it's an invaluable tool. And with this tool you have to use screw number 5 and screw number 7 from the engine to tighten it down. And when it's tightened down, then you can undo this nut, because there's fierce tension in that spring, and you take off the nut, and then you take this off, and all this mechanism comes off very easily. Right, I have that clutch mechanism in place there now, and we must undo this nut, and there are 2 spring washers underneath it, so that's the next to take off, and then we'll take this off again, and all this mechanism will come off easily. Okay, that's the nut loosened there now, and underneath we can see the washers. There should be 2 of them there. I think there is. I don't want to damage the threading there now. That's one, and there's the other one. Okay, I'll take that out, and I'll take this off then. Okay, I have loosened the 2 bolts. Take them off, and number 5 goes back into its place, and number 7. That's the next thing to do before doing any more. Anyway, I'll do that in a second. The next thing now is to take all this apart. This is the top section that sits down on the spring, which compresses it down, and you can see that it's curved like a saucer underneath, and the saucer section goes down, not this way when you're putting it back together, like that. The spring, and then the bearing comes off as well. Sometimes it's difficult to get it off, but I'll prise that off there now. The next thing to do then is to take this wheel off. Okay, what I'm doing is I'm actually going to use the pullers to pull it off. It came up so far, but it just won't come off, so I'll use the pullers to do that. Right, this large cog wheel here, it looks as if it's going to just pull off. The first thing to be aware of is that there's a spacer washer here. That's a spacer washer there for the bearing on the other casing. That bearing there. Now, to get this wheel off, you must use both hands, you must press down on it, and you must twist it to the left. I can't do it with one hand, so I'll have to do that, and you just keep persisting with it and it will come. In this case it was pretty easy, so up she comes. Don't forget that spacer washer when putting it back in. Okay, we can now see all the gears inside here and the gear changing mechanism, and it all looks okay at the moment. We'll see better when we get into it. I can take this out at this stage, but in actual fact the next thing to do is to take all this clutch mechanism out. That's the next procedure. This piece just comes up, there's nothing holding it in place, so it just comes up. Like so. Right. That then shows us the clutch plates, and we can see here that they're separated. They're in the top one is like that, there's a metal plate between, and the other one down below is in between these two here. They don't line up together. So the next thing to do is to take them out. So that's the top one. This is the metal separating plate, and this is the lower clutch piece. Right, so I've just put them all back in there together. Right, when I was doing the Quickly TT engine, this circlip here was missing out of it. Now this circlip is important, it has to be there, just in case this comes up, but the likelihood of it coming up are pretty remote, but you never know, and the circlip has to be installed when you're putting it back in. So I'm going to take off the circlip and then try and get that out. Now there are two special tools in the NSU Quickly book to get this thing out, but I find myself that you need to use a lot of force to get this out from time to time. Sometimes this one looks like it actually might come out because it's a little bit on the loose side, but more often than not this will be stuck in position and very difficult to get out, so you'll have to use some force to get it out. But you have to be careful not to damage any of these outer casing areas here. So what you have to do is put plenty cloth on these areas when you're trying to prise it out. You have to try and prise it out like that. Anyway, I'll take off the circlip and then I'll see if I can get it. Right, that's the circlip off. Now we'll try and get that out. Okay. Today must be my lucky day because it came out without any work being required at all. Now what I'm looking for in there is I'm looking for a little rubber seal. I can't see it. These seals apparently can be the cause of serious problems with Quickly engines starting if they're not sealing properly. So it's advisable when doing any engine to replace this seal and replace the seal at the other side, because if air gets in, like I've had trouble with one engine and it's just driven me absolutely demented. So I've opened the engine 5 times, so hopefully the 5th time, well I haven't opened the 5th time 4 times, and the 5th time I'm hoping that I did change them, but I'll have to go back in again and have another look at it and see what's going on. Okay, right, we can take out, we'll have a look for that little rubber seal in there now in a minute when we'll be taking off the whole thing. The next thing to do is to take out, now in some engines this will come out, and in this one it won't come out at all. I'm just turning the dogs there now to see what exactly is happening. I don't like to be hearing click, 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 click. Whatever that is. Seems to have been just metal against metal. As the oil is after starting to float around, it's running better. So sometimes these will come out. In this case now it won't come out, so the next procedure is to take this other casing at the other side off, this casing here. But to do that, there's one further bolt. This bolt here goes right through to the other side. There it is there. So I'll just take that off there. Even it's only just for one of the side casings, but just in case that it's attached to anything inside, we'll take it off, which it shouldn't be. And that's it. We have to undo that bolt there so that this other casing will come apart. So that's the next thing to do. Okay, so I've just undid the bolt there now that's holding the two casings together. This is the other part of it here. And I pull that bolt out, and now the two casings can come apart. So I'll just put that onto my box there. Put all the spring washers with it and put it on there. And there's the little bolt blunt to it. Okay, next thing to do is to take these apart. Right, I've managed to get the other casing apart there now, so I'm just going to try and turn this up here like this. I'll put the camera down for a second. Actually put it up on that there. Right, this whole section is after coming out all in one piece, which is very handy. Right. Okay. Now the first thing I'm noticing is that there's a washer missing from there. And it doesn't seem to be anywhere in there. It might have fallen out. Okay, it's not there, but this is actually sticking out further than it normally is, and I think there should be a washer there. I'll have to have a look at the book anyway. Right, that's that section apart. So now I have to take out all these gears and things. When I was talking about the clutch cup coming out earlier on, this fellow over here, I was talking about a rubber seal, and that little rubber seal should be there. It's a small little rubber that goes around there. Nearly every engine that I open, it's missing. Now, I don't know whether it has an effect on the air getting into the engine when it's being started, but when I'm putting this back together, there'll be a rubber there anyway. Right, I'm just going to see if these things will come out, or what exactly is required to be done to get them out. Okay, it looks as if this can be taken out. Right, this wheel comes off. Okay. Push that through from the other side and the other one pops out. Okay. This is the one that goes up. Right. This should have 16 teeth. This should have 17 teeth. And this should have 25 teeth, hopefully. Now, these mechanisms are different in... I have another one taken out of another engine, which I'll show there now. And I think I know now what they meant on eBay when they were saying that there's a type 1 and a type 2. Okay, this is the one that I took out of, this one I took it out of the NSU Quickly TT. It's a 3-speed. And you can see with this, that's the little washer that I was talking about that isn't here now in this one. But maybe it doesn't go in there, I don't know, I'll have to check the book. This unit, which was in the Quickly TT, doesn't come apart like this one does. This piece comes off. I did a minute ago. See? And I presume this piece can come out as well then. Yeah, it does. So you can actually buy these parts separately. I saw them on the suppliers for the NSU parts. So this one, as far as I know, it doesn't come apart. Maybe it does with I could belt it with a hammer or something, but you can see the difference in the two of them. This one, all the teeth are all broken on it, whereas this one, the teeth are perfect on it. Anyway, that's the difference between the two of them. So I don't know which is the first one that came out and which is the second one, but I have purchased on eBay two of these, and I've purchased one as being the number one and the other one as being number two, so when they'll come I'll know exactly which one was which. Okay, now I'm going to take out this mechanism here, like so. So that's that out, and this still will not come out. So I'll put this back on there, because that's the correct way that it goes, and I'll try and get that off by just manipulating it to come out. So I can then pull out this. Okay, and that's perfect on this one. It was broken and damaged on the Quickly TT. That all looks fine. That's fine. So now I have to get this out. So if this dog is taken out, make sure that this is the top of it. The bottom has a gap there. The top of it protrudes up like that. Okay, not that way. Right, the final act in getting this engine apart is to get the conrod off, and to do that you have to hit it with a mallet. Now I don't like doing it because more often than not you're going to damage these threads, especially if it is like this one, which was it was very badly stuck with rust. But what I do is I put on this nut on as far in as I can so that I'm still hitting there. But a lot of the time you can damage the threads on this thing here. Now this one was particularly badly stuck. The bearing was, I can't take it out now with the nut. Take off the nut. And out it comes. As you can see, the bearing was pretty badly seized. So that's it. Doesn't seem to be any play in it, which is good. And the threads are good here, and the threads are good at the other side, which is an absolute bonus. And this is where the little rubber seal should go after it's put on, before the clutch mechanism is put on there. Right, I've started cleaning up this part of it, and it's coming up pretty good. But the ideal thing to do with these would be to have them vapor blasted, but I don't have that luxury, but I'll try and clean it as best I can. It's much better than it was anyway, compared to this and that. So the next video will be putting it all back together,